Something crashed. Or just disappeared. Let's see if this changed anything. Okay, now it sounds about right. There's not too much audio delay either. Cool. Well, hopefully all the relevant people are still here. Ever. Screw this. So, lesson for the future: do not ever hope that stuff didn't break just because you haven't used it in a week or two, because it is definitely going to break. Cool. Good stuff. Thanks, folks. Alrighty. Hopefully this worked. Let me check actually levels here for one more way. Once again. Okay, I should about be good on the levels. Sound is super now. Thank you, Jazz Junkie. Appreciate it. And Rosalo and La Capitano. Claude Bowie. I'm not going to be a Twitch partner ever. Not even a Twitch affiliate. Screw that. Okay. So, we're messing about with VHF mode. VHF data mode 2, VDL. Is what it's called. Huh. Don't think I showed you the... Well, I did show it to you on screenshots. I didn't show you the progress. Well, the FMS is real cheese and Toto streams. Could this get any better? Well, Pancake, we'll see. So I didn't show this to you in motion, I guess. Let's see. I don't know. Like there. So the geopolitical boundary system. So essentially all of the FMS or most of the flight management system itself, the flight management computer is in place. At this point, I'm doing stuff that is sort of not the core functionality. So, or not the sort of essential for flight functionality, but nice to have things. So things like the IFIS, right? So IFIS, they call this, what about pancakes and flying the Challenger? Yeah, that would have been nice, yeah. So the actually, let me make you a mod as well, Pancake King. You are definitely somebody who's reliable. Reliable to break everything. Anyway, so IFIS, that's a feature of the ProLine 21 Advanced. The basic ProLine 21 doesn't have this, so those would be your political boundary display, this kind of deal. Then you've got your, if we go to lower format here, I'm gonna have to reduce the map range a little bit. Airspace display, these are all functions that are provided by way of a thing inside of the avionics. Well, oh, pancake mod. There goes the neighborhood. There goes another neighborhood. So the IFIS is fundamentally composed of two parts, and that'd be your there's a file server unit. Nice pressure. Had to revert to my other tag. SLU Flyer 06. So that's your other name. Well then, welcome to the stream. So the file server unit is essentially a solid state storage unit inside of the avionics bay that has Ethernet connections to the two inboard displays here, so the MFDs only, not the PFDs. And what that thing does is it allows the MFDs to receive data that is much larger. Not the only Star Trek fan here. Yeah. Um, yeah, so that allows the MFDs to receive data that would normally be too large to send over something like an Airing 429 bus from the FMCs here. So what the FMCs can send to the MFDs is sort of little pieces of data, right? So if I go ahead and get rid of the IFIS data here, they can send little pieces of data. So things like, for instance, they can send a list of nearest airports. That is essentially, just a set of coordinates and a bunch of names. That's all. Set of nearest nav aids, and it's only 40, limited to 40 elements. So that's sort of the stuff that you can actually quite conveniently fit through a 100 kilobit bus, which is what Airing 429 normally is, high speed mode. Low speed is 12.5 kilobits, but high speed is 100 kilobits. And so that's sort of the data volume that you can conveniently fit through an Airing bus. Anything more complicated than that, you kind of, Airing is not really built for that. Airing 429 anyway. So there is an Ethernet specification for, well, I think it's called Airing 669. That is a 100 megabit, or rather, it's generic Ethernet, but for us, I simulated it as a 100 megabit fast Ethernet bus between the file server unit. What's the window option for? That's for this thing here. That's what they call the window. So you're going to have either display for switch over like this. So you could have your, so if you're en route here, you can display your LNAV status. Then you've got a combined LNAV, and here you would have any VNAV constraints displayed. That currently you don't have a flight plan in there, but we can quickly load up a flight plan. Where are you? Route options, pilot route list. Now let's load you up, activate, execute, and it'll give me, well, currently there's no vertical constraints on this thing. Oh, right, because I don't have a departure in there. So load up a departure, execute, and still no VNAV constraints here. I might have to be airborne for these to show up. I don't know, actually, I think they only show descent constraints. Anyway, so that's what you would see there. No, they do show climb constraints, so I might have to be airborne for this to show anything. So going back to, where was I? Here. I'm going to turn you off, go away, and switch this over to plan mode. So in plan, so this is the sort of data volume that the Airing this data can provide. So there is another Airing specification 669, or airborne Ethernet, airborne full duplex Ethernet AFDX. It's an Airbus thing, designed in the early 2000s, I think, and currently watching stream from 144p because apparently the internet has thrown itself out the window. Ouch. Ouch. Sorry about that. Anyway, so AFDX gives us 100 megabit full duplex from the file server unit to these two inner displays. So that lets me push through a big old shapefile, well, a series of shapefiles, which are, if we hop over here, which are, let's see, they're in data geopol. Yeah, so they are a total of about 25 megabytes. Might have struggled on Twitch also. Yeah, could be. So these are 25 megabytes worth of shape files that can be sent quickly over from the file server unit over to the vector reality. Yeah, surprise stream. I'm not going to make a very long one, but yeah. So that lets the file server unit send over a large or large data volumes over to the displays, and then you can do things like display your geopolitical shapes and outlines. So that is essentially what gives you these country outlines. So these are stored as vector data. Your Twitch won't work for me either. A decent resolution on gig fiber. Interesting. Weird. Why did I not make a mod? Sorry, I'm just catching up on making people mods that should have been mods a long time ago. Anyway. Hey, Tail West, how are you doing? So that's what gives the MFDs the capability to draw complicated terrain outlines, because the sending over vertex data of this volume over something like Airing 429, you'd be here till the friggin' cows come home. So essentially, that'll be completely impractical. So then the next thing, of course, is it can also display airspace data. So I've pulled in that, as much of it as I could. So here's roughly what the UK currently looks like. Yes, it's a muddled up mess. The airspace display is a, we do not grant it a rank of viewer, Twitch probably. Yeah, so the airspace display is a limited utility, and talking to CL650 Pilot, he has it enabled. Well, they have it on their airplane, but apparently he's turned it off. He turned it on once when they got the airplane, then turned it off and never turned it on ever again in the years they've had it. So that's about how useful it is. And then besides airspace display, we've also got airways display, because sure, why not? So we can also do this, which again is a fairly limited utility, especially when we've got airspace turned on at the same time. But turn that off. I mean, you can kind of sort of read it. It's something. But, you know, the usefulness, this is somewhat questionable. It's probably more useful in places. That's useful, said no one. Yeah. I mean, it's somewhat more useful over in the US, where the airway density ain't quite that high. Airways had airspace around them. But display's turned on. So, and bottle rocket here. Where was the all air? So you're talking about Canada and the UK, right? So for those cases, I've actually put in special conditions into my parser, which detects the Canadian stuff, and it filters out the airspace around that essentially goes along airways, because it would just be a completely muddled up mess otherwise. It would just be lines everywhere and just be completely unreadable. So I've gotten rid of those. So there is still the ability. So if I go here, disable airways. So you can, by the way, display separately high or low airways, depending on what level of uselessness you want, I guess, from the display here. So when Canadian airspace, when I filtered out the airway display, airway sections, does the real aircraft show that airspace in Canada? Yes, it does. I've literally checked it against the real aircraft here, so UIYZ. So yes, this is what it looks like in the real thing. In fact, I figured out by looking at certain regions in the US that it also displays. So these dashed lines, so there are, you'll notice some are solid, some are dashed. The distinction is solid lines are controlled airspace, dashed lines are restricted or special use. So that's how I figured out that it's not just restricted and prohibited airspace that it puts dashed lines on, but also for what they call dangerous airspace, but which is technically not restricted. In the US, danger airspace will be MOAS. If you're familiar with the US airspace structure, whereas there's a bunch of MOAS over by near no, that's restricted airspace is over in Las Vegas. So this is restricted airspace. Well, this portion here will be the northern section of the Nevada Test and Training Range. These are MOAS. And further out over Salt Lake City, I think there's a bunch of, so many of these are MOAS. They're not, so many of these are strictly speaking not restricted. You can fly through them, There's no need to ask for permissions, but they're technically labeled as danger regions, so, and the real thing displays them, so we had to as well. Now for the ultimate completely muddled up mess of unreadable lines, left, right, and center, you can go, of course, to Frankfurt, which, I mean, already the airspace display kind of makes it useless almost, but it's not quite completely useless. It gets useless when you enable airway display because Germany is the exact opposite. Class F airspace, yes. But that's not controlled. So where is it? No, it is? It might be. Hang on. Class G is uncontrolled, so Class F is technically controlled, but this thing actually, the controlled airspace, when we're talking about controlled airspace, technically that actually just means BNC for the aircraft's purposes, for the display purposes. So there is Class D and Class Echo airspace and whatever else, but we only show Class C and B stuff, because otherwise it'd be completely unreadable. Anyway, talking about airways, so, as you look over in, you look, LHBP, yeah, Hungary is a beautiful area to look at. It's just amazing when you go to, let's hide the airspace stuff. The airspace stuff looks horrible down there. Oh, damn. But if you turn on airways, what a beautifully black area right there. Hungary's gotten rid of all of its airways. So good on them. Now the exact opposite of that would be Germany. That is Germany. It's actually just Frankfurt. And yeah, it's about this level of readable, which is to say not at all. And it doesn't matter whether you've turned on low airways or high airways, they're all equally unreadable. I guess high ones are a little bit less unreadable, but they're all still pretty horrible. Now, your only saving grace is that airways are automatically removed from display above 50 miles. So right now my display is set to 50 miles. If I zoom out further than that, it just goes away. It isn't specifically classified as A to F is considered uncontrolled G. Well, it's pretty much, yeah. So the data link uses COM3 to download data. Does it auto-tune the data link frequency, or do you lose flying over ocean? Tail west. I'll be getting to that soon. Does the ProLine show any terrain stuff other than just the black thing with rivers in it? No, Bottle Rocketeer. Only this and whatever your JITWIS system. Does it have FIR boundaries? No. I don't think so, no. It only shows national boundaries, which for most places is pretty close to FIR boundaries, but not always. So definitely not over the ocean. Can we see around EGLL? Sure. EGLL, there you go. And which type of data did you want to see? Airways? Horrible muddled up mess. Yeah, FIRs would have been useful, but unfortunately this thing doesn't do those. En route airways, still pretty useless. Airspace display, whatever. Yeah, well, this is what it looks like. Not very useful. Unfortunately, the UK is also pretty heavy on airways. Yeah, here you go. Enjoy. Yes, no error D shown, yes. You have to understand reflected reality sim. This thing is designed by Americans for Americans and a little bit of Canadians. So the structure is sort of designed to make sense of American airspace. Yeah, you're special. No, so thing is, if you design, so the thing is, a lot of countries have their own styles of organizing the airspace. And if you try and design any kind of system to display it neatly for them, it'll probably not work anywhere else. Americans design airspace too. Yeah, the thing is, the UK airspace is strange, like having Class A airspace down at ground level at Heathrow. What? I'm not aware of anybody else that does it that way. I mean, probably there's some places, but definitely not America, not Canada. I don't think even anything else in Europe does Class A to zero to ground level. So, whatever. And then you've got, and yet normally Class A would mean you need a flight plan. You need to be on an IFR flight plan to fly in there and under control. But theoretically, I think you can transition Class A somehow. Heathrow, it's not Class A anymore. Airways are, though, even better. Okay, well, they changed that. Okay, cool. And anyway, airspace discussion, always great fun. And the reason why somebody said you like how, yeah, love how it takes a moment for it all to load. And Bottle Rocketeer, that is actually a genuine thing. I didn't like just willy-nilly put that in. That's because of the fact that we have to wait for you to actually stabilize your display. So rendering all of that crap, the entire display here takes about maybe 100 to 200 milliseconds rendering the background image. And so I don't want to be quickly re-rendering it while you're doing things like, scrolling quickly out and in and stuff like that, because that would generate a lot of CPU demand on you. So we delay it by about a half a second. So basically, whenever you stop moving crap around, stop moving the display around, we wait for half a second, and once you've settled down, then we do a redraw. So that works out to, roughly about, it lags by about a half to 3/4 of a second, which, by the way, looking around in the real airplane and playing around sort of with the zoom functions and everything is about the same time delay that the real thing has on it. So the screens already have all the shape data and all the airspace data statically loaded in. So they'll load the data in as soon as the file server unit boots up. They'll automatically pull that stuff in, and then they just keep it in memory. We've got plenty of memory, so that's not really an issue. The issue is more about only redrawing it when we absolutely have to, because it takes a fair amount of CPU. And it's yeah, sure, it's done on a background thread, and it doesn't block X-Plane's execution. It doesn't even block the screens themselves because it's done on a background of a background thread. But I don't want to be loading down your CPU too hard, because even though I have 8 CPU cores, you may not. You may only have like a quad core i5 or whatever. So we have to basically try and be sparing with my use of CPU resources. Anyway, let's see. There was a nice flight plan, a long one I had in here. Oh, by the way, also route menu, pilot and disk routes are implemented. Flight plan recall and flight plan win update is what I've been working on today. So those are the COM3 data stuff here that's going to be coming in. That's VHF VDL, so VHF data link mode 2 is what I'm working on right now. I'm also implementing the CMU, the communications management unit. Currently only got that part currently functional of all of that crap. So that is going to be put in. I've been running for 35 minutes. I need to figure out why it's not syncing time yet. So does the delay just fall out as a result of your simulation already, or did you need to add anything? No, so the delay basically is to make sure your display has stabilized so we don't load up your main CPU too hard. And then there's about 100 to 200 milliseconds of drawing actually that takes place. And then the display updates and refreshes. So, yeah, pretty much. There's, it's 50-50. We could draw faster, but then we load down your CPU too much, and I don't want to do that because, again, we have to be sparing with your CPU resources. Anyway, so data link stuff is going to depend on VHF data link mode 2, VDL2, and so that's going to be coming in here. Currently actually figuring out why the hell it's not sending through my mode change request. So if I scroll here over to the display, to the submenu for the radio mode, it should toggle the mode now, but it's for some reason the data words is not being sent through. So I got to figure out what I messed up there. Because the COM3 radio, in reality, you can actually operate as a normal, VHF radio if you want, as a COM radio. Not an X-plane, unfortunately, but in reality you can. It's a slight simism. It's a little bit of a simism, but not so much of a simism. It's more a matter of like, I want to make, there's a good chance that the real thing also waits for you to stop scrolling, because its CPU is equally, well, it's much slower than mine, and the display itself also has to do a lot of its other stuff while it's doing the redraw in the background there, so it wants to avoid that. I'm pretty sure, by the way, I've got a fairly similar data source for the displays here for the data. So this is OSM Shapefile Data, if you want to know. So OpenStreetMap provides geometric shapefiles for country outlines, coastlines, river center lines, and lakes. So if we go, for example, to KORD, no, that one. We go to Chicago O'Hare, it'll, for example, give us, lakes and stuff. And let's see, I remember here near Winnipeg, there's a bunch of like tiny little rivers all over the place. So it does give you that. And so we have coastlines. So these are coastlines. They're dashed because they're essentially part of an ocean. But the inner portions here are lakes. So those are drawn as part of a different shapefile, and they don't get a coastal outline because they're not considered part of sea or ocean, really. Not part of an ocean, really. Remember when I started right seating, we used to fly over the Indian Ocean. Every time we fly, we lose the data link. I saw my colleague playing around with that and config, and it came back to normal. So next flight tried it, but messed up everything. Not good for ETOP. So lesson learned, not to touch config. Yeah. So VHF data link. I've been thinking about how to do it. So one of the problems there is I do have a little bit of reading on it done, so I roughly understand how it works. The problem is it's essentially a modem, to be honest. The problem is I don't have the ground station list. So I've been thinking about sort of proxying it out or trying to intuit where the ground stations would be based on X-plane frequency data. So if I have an airport nearby that has an ATIS on it, and I don't know, maybe I'll check the length of the runway or something, and then I'm going to place like a little transmitter sort of at the airport reference point, and then do a VHF radio link check to make sure that you can actually receive that radio, and then we'll simulate that as your mode to data link. I don't know, we'll figure it out. The airplane has the capability to do SATCOM as well, so it does have, when you're over the ocean, it'll. Why is Lake Michigan in Michigan? Hang on. These are the state outlines and country outlines that I got from OSM, so I would have assumed that they are more or less correct. Let me check. OpenStreetMap. Seems fine to me. Nope, seems fine to me. These are the correct state outlines. So the thing is, there's a bit of a trick there, or a bit of a confusing element here, is that it draws country borders and state borders with the same dashed line. So you can't. Right, no, that's because the state boundary is there. It goes through the lake. Apparently. At least that's what OpenStreetMap says. I mean, if you don't think that is the case, go there and tell them. But according to them, that is the state border. And according to Google, same thing. Yeah, they go through the lake. Yes, sir. National border also goes through the middle of the lake. Yeah. Anyway, so like that. So also for things like if we go down to Melbourne, we also have some lines that go, for example, right here in the ocean. So there are, so the FMS has, you'll notice, for example, when we go to Germany, we don't have individual Bundesstates split up. And that's because the avionics only has state borders for a few countries. That'll be Canada, the US, China, Russia, Australia. I think that's it. So only for those 5 they have subdivisions into individual pieces, and that's basically because the countries are so friggin' big. You just have huge, black areas of nothing in there. Otherwise, it'd just be rivers. So to give it a little bit more structure, they've basically, for these countries that are very, very large, they've gathered up. I don't remember any airport codes in China besides Hong Kong. So, for China we do as well, and same thing for Australia. We have national borders. So YPAD is over there about. So for Australia we also have national borders. I'm sorry, state borders. Higher administrative subdivisions is what they call it in the manual. And I've put in, I don't know if this is realistic because I haven't really browsed the real thing through Micronesia and Polynesia, but for oceanic data, I've put in oceanside, essentially, or I guess specific region, stuff. Whereas, let's see, I had, sure, NZAA, I think should be Auckland. Yeah, that'll leave us over there. So you'll see that for, Micronesia and Polynesia, I've put in national borders essentially, or I guess region borders in the South Pacific and Pacific Ocean, I guess, whatever. If that is wrong, I might remove it, not a problem. Editing the shape files is straightforward. No disputed borders though, so, no dotted line here going through the South China Sea. Anyway, Japan, Japan. See, also no, they call prefectures in Japan, right? No subdivisions there either, because there would be like a million of them. I remember seeing the data set for LJ, I think, is Ljubljana. Yeah, that one had like, I don't know, 50 administrative subdivisions in the shapefile data, so that one just ended up being a completely dense mess of white lines here with no readability on it at all. So I just got rid of those. I mean, obviously we were going to get rid of those because they were just too dense in the data. And I mean, it's even at fairly close in zoom levels, you can pretty well guess where you are. Okay, so that's the IFIS. That was a fun project for about 4 days. Let's see. So anyway, lower format pause display. Right, I'm located here. Anyway, so what you can do is, even with the IFIS display, you can still display a terrain overlay. So it'll do this. You can do, TOS terrain. That'll give you your elevation map, I guess, of sorts. And, yeah. It intelligently doesn't draw in pixels where it would have been black on the overlay, so it does actually, it does apply a little bit of smarts. Thank you. More right rudder. Great name. So lower format, switch to plan mode. it gets kind of funny when you go to very high latitudes. If you need anyone to texture, I can look into it. I think we've already got a person on that, a very, very capable person. What do I want to bring up here? Svalbard, right? ENSB. When you get to very high latitudes, it gets really kind of funky with when you just go a little bit over in terms of, you know, positioning. Let's see, I want to get rid of this, and I want to show high en route nav aids. Yeah, ULT NOR, right? That's the one. So you'll see right here a little bit of, you know, there's a slight, you know, maybe 300, 400 miles, but if I jump over to that DME there, you'll know how much the outline of the render has to twist over, and that's because we're looking at very far north. So this is at, I think, Alert Airbase ULT here. So that is like 82 degrees north. And you move the map to TFFJ. I want to see what the terrain will look like there. Well, so the thing is, toss terrain only shows where your aircraft is. So I can't show you terrain display for where I'm not located. And let's see. So I cannot show you oh no, there it is, TFFJ. I can't show you terrain where I'm not located. That's the way that the JITWAS works. GPWS only shows a terrain overlay for the PPOS map, present position map. So that'd be this display here. TNCM. It doesn't work quite like, you know, a Garmin would, where you would get your, I guess, you know, your terrain profile and everything. Oh, it didn't fill in these little islands here. I wonder why. Be a rendering artifact. Or no, I know. So these are, yeah, the problem is these are marked as coastlines in the coastline data, but they're not part of the country data, so there's no terrain drawn on there. It basically just defaults to water. Now the shape of the island there is very different from the actual one. Is it? How is it different? It shouldn't. Let me check. Where are you? St. John's. Hang on, this is exactly where I'm kind of lost here. Puerto Rico, Antigua. Yeah, Maho Beach. So this thing here. Well, it's low detail, I guess. No, it's I mean, it's reasonably close. It doesn't have very high detail. Yeah, no, it doesn't have like the, you know, very fine, refined shape. It does show the airport being sort of on the edge of something there, but it draws basically this thing. Yeah, so this would be the shape of the actual island here. But yeah, this is the way that the shapefile came. Interesting. So we're sort of looking at it from this kind of a distance. Yeah, I mean, it's coarse is, I guess, the word. But then St. Bart's. So St. Bart's is TFFJ, I think, isn't it? St. Bart's. I mean, it's sort of a half moon shape, right? If you squint and you're looking at it from far away. It's not very high def, but you know, that's just the limitations of shapefiles. Whatever the shapefiles came with is what we're drawing. They are, I think, 1 to 10 million scale data when it comes to detail, so... And that's the highest detail I could get, by the way. The real thing is probably even lower def. I compared in a few places. I think our national outlines are actually even more detailed than theirs, than the real data that Collins supplies. So pretty much, you know, you're supposed to sort of guess that the shape is about right. It's not super high detail, I guess. For example, this is right now where I'm located, Matterbury. And let's find it over on the Google. Can I sort of make a stab at where it is? Not really. It should be about here somewhere. Karen, no. Yeah, and for example, for this island, they got the shape pretty much, you know, spot on. So I guess, you know, your mileage may vary. So anyway, don't consider the geopolitical display to be, I guess, they even warn you not to rely on it for terrain avoidance or anything like that. Probably because they know that the data is fairly low detail. So that's that. You've also got traffic display, so TCAS is integrated now and functional. Where do I go here? No, there. ATC1. And we can go ahead and do a TCAS test.
TCAS system test OK.
So yeah, what it says there, I guess. One of the weird things about Collins is you can use, I don't know why they designed it this way, but you can. Let me just turn on a TCAS test here. And you can switch to absolute altitude tags. So when I switch that over, well, right now I'm sort of near
system test OK.
I'm sort of near sea level here, so let's go to someplace else which is not quite so sea level-y. Let's see, I want to pick something that's reasonably islandy, so there's not too much terrain around. Elevation 47 feet. 55 feet. Sure, whatever. 843 feet. Yeah, sure, PHHI. That's an Air Force base, but who cares? We'll just hope that they're not going to hate us for that. Helicopter parking. C-130, helicopter, North 1. I said I don't want the friggin' run. Yeah, whatever. Just go there already. Go. We don't get to hear the climb now. That'll be a reversal. So let's hook up the ground power unit again. What is this place? Well, it looks like an airport, so I'm happy with that. It still thinks that we're back over at SCIP, but pretty soon it'll jump over to a different spot when the GPS system acquires a signal. There. And ground power is available. So there's Hawaii. And so now if I go to the TCAS test, you'll notice I've turned on absolute altitude tags. So now it shows normally these contacts should be at these relative
TCAS system test OK.
at these relative altitudes too. So 200 feet below, 200 above, 1,000 below, 1,000 above. But if you turn on absolute altitudes,
TCAS system test
they'll
OK.
recompute from your present altitude to show absolute number, and then you'll also get a little tag here telling you what your absolute altitude is. And this thing turns on and off.
System test OK.
Turns on and off display of proximate traffic. So when you're not interested in seeing what other traffic is around, then you can hit. You want to see some traffic? I guess we can turn on some of it. So let's go to AI. Yeah, sure, one Skyhawk is enough. Hope the friggin' thing won't crash my X-plane. Where are you? Where'd it go? Do I have pilot edge? Yeah, I have pilot edge here, so I have to disable pilot edge because it overrides AI traffic. Okay, where you at, boy? There you are. He's on the ground. That's not helpful. Let's put in another one. Hopefully he'll be airborne. Ah, he's airborne. Cool. Good stuff. So let's fire up the airplane. And when I fly this for the first time, I spend half an hour just configuring the avionics. Just yeet it into the air with the map. Yeah, I might do that. I know what you mean for the AI. Pancake King, you probably are going to spend more than half an hour because you can mess around with the TOS configuration. And here's how many options for the various callouts you've got. Mash the add traffic button. And you can turn on various 500-foot callout modes, bank angle callout. And these really you should leave alone, the above ones. Well, I guess you can change your reduced volume gain for glide slope. Alright, once the APU generator on bus, we'll put on a bunch of parking brake. Bleed that, and you turn on your little lighty lights. And rock and roll. Let's spool them. And of course, before even starting an APU, you would do your fire test checks.
Jet pipe overheat.
Your sensor failure tests, and bring the ICAS back over here. And technical than the real airplane. Probably not. Actually, let me put my joystick up here. Actually fly the damn thing. Hop over through the unfinished cabin here. Oh, actually, let me. Yeah, you wouldn't hear that. Don't worry about it. Okay, startup is complete. Get the generators on bus. Kill the APU because I don't care. Good stuff. So we got those guys going. Strobes and whatever. And let's just grab the airplane, throw it up into the air. So what altitude is he at? Is he stable? More or less. Okay, cool. So we'll go ahead and hunt him down. And I'm just going to put myself on somewhat of a collision course here. Yeah, like that. Like so. What speeds are doing? 130. We're not going to go that slow. About there. We'll give ourselves about that amount of speed. Just going to quickly realign the IRS here. Alright, I need to turn on all these parts so the autopilot will work, and gear up. ATS. Good. We're looking for that traffic contact here. Oh yeah, I need to turn on this thing actually, so TCAS going active. And he's much slower than that. Okay, I'm gonna drag the airplane back again. Find the system here again. There he is. It's 200 feet below us. Yeah, whatever. So let's see if we can get a traffic conflict. Not that easy, actually. I think we're going too fast. Yeah, we fly in front of him. We're fairly low, so the thresholds for getting an actual TA or RA are fairly tight. Yeah, he's going to pass like a mile behind us, so TCAS is not going to trigger on that. So let's see, let's go like that, and I'm going to make our speeds sort of more similar. Let's roll out some flaps. I'm going to make 160. That should make it easier to set up some encounter geometries. Oh, come on. Just by sheer... even trying, we sometimes are not able to get encounter. And we're going to pass in front of him. Again, god damn it. So, let's just make it like that.
Traffic, traffic.
There we go. Still gonna pass in front of him, huh? I should have given an RA by now. We're still gonna pass in front of him, so... I'm an idiot. This is the encounter geometry. I've been an idiot this whole time. There we go. So now we're about 10% off on the speed, so now we should pass very close to him. You wanted a climb now. Okay. That means we need to be lower than the intruder. Are you turning? God damn it. Yeah, I hate that when X-Plane does it. It just turns for no friggin' reason. Okay then, new encounter. Like so. Turn into him.
Caution, terrain. Caution, terrain.
Okay. Now. Any luck? Are we going too slow now? Now we're gonna pass behind him. Oh, there we go.
Descend. Descend.
Okay, so let's say I don't follow him. And instead, I'm gonna do a climb here.
Level off. Level off.
Woo! Where'd he go? Oh, there it is.
Clear of conflict.
So the easiest way to set up an encounter is just to do head on. That way you kind of can't miss. All you gotta do is make sure you pass within a distance of the target there, and then it's all good. So just turn into him.
Traffic. Traffic. Descend. Descend.
And instead I'm gonna do a climb. So you wanted a reversing RA.
Climb. Climb now. Climb. Climb now. Increase climb. Increase climb. Clear of conflict.
There we go. And we can do also another one. Let's say that we're just descending into him. We'll do 1,200 feet a minute. Yeah, he's turning again, huh? God damn it. Go there. Turn like that. So, do a different one. Let's do... Go ahead and climb up to 4K. And I'm going to pull him back. Because I want to do... Stop turning, damn it. Yeah. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to do a level off advisory. So it is a version 7.1 compliant system, what we're simulating. TCAS version 7.1 means we do have level off RAs. So if the TCAS sees that we're descending into the contact, it'll try and figure out an intercept that minimizes our change in rate. Let's hope I'm going to descend into him fast enough. Might not have.
Traffic. Traffic.
There we go.
Climb. Climb.
Okay, thought we need to climb then. You're not supposed to go crazy bananas on this. You're just supposed to barely put your vertical speed onto the green band, or basically your flight path vector just inside of that box.
Clear of conflict.
Let's see if I can make it do a level off RA.
Traffic. Traffic.
Nah, it's probably too.
Level off. Level off.
Okay. There we go. This is a both descent and climb corrective. A descent corrective, or no, this is descent preventive. There he is, below us. Just passed like 400 feet below.
Clear of conflict.
There we go. And if we place them such that, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to place you about there. Probably too far. Put you over there.
Traffic. Traffic.
See if we gotta maintain vertical speed.
Monitor vertical speed.
Now there we go. So this is a preventive RA, right? So they are.
Descend. Descend.
So those are preventive RAs are for the rare case where you're already doing what it thinks what it wants you to be doing, but it just wants you to stop you from doing something different.
Clear of conflict.
There we go. Even level off. Here. Have a good one. Oh, Tail West, you got that. Good stuff. That'd be amazing, Tail West. Thank you. Sweet. I'm gonna try. Well, thing is, interesting. I know they are. I know their frequencies, but I don't know where their transmitters are. Thank you, Tail West. They trigger all the different RAs in one go. Bottle Rocketeer, not really. No, they are mutually incompatible. Some of them you can't. There's just no way for you to trigger them. Check fuel at destination. Yeah, sure, whatever. No, Bottle Rocketeer. So some you cannot. I've also got this thing implemented here. What I haven't tested is this. Right, good. Not on ground is what it should say. Keep going against what it tells you to do. So we've already tested what a reversal is. So that's what you heard when it said climb, climb now, when it initially gave a descent. The now part means it's changed its mind and it wants you to do something different. Usually because you haven't been maneuvering in the way it's telling you to be maneuvering. We'll catch up to that guy. Can it give a level off now? No, level offs are not reversals. Reversals. Blah. Level offs are, that's not one thing. Level offs are, instructions that essentially just ask you to do whatever you're already doing. It's just I think, yeah, it's called a reverse. It's a reducing corrective RA, usually. Yeah, it's a corrective RA because it asks you to do a maneuver. So there are preventive and corrective RAs. Corrective RAs are for when it wants you to do something different than what you were already doing. Preventive RAs are, it's just asking you not to do something bad, but keep doing whatever you're already doing. So corrective RAs would be for when you're already climbing or descending, and it needs you to be doing the same thing. So you're doing, let's say, 2,000 feet a minute, and it wants you to do at least plus 1,500 feet a minute. Then it will give you a preventive RA. Just say it says monitor vertical speed, and that's it. It'll show a red band but no green band, so there's no fly to zone. It doesn't ask you to change whatever you're doing, and the display here on the HUD is going to be a sort of open box. It's going to show you where it doesn't want you to go, but it's going to basically tell you just stay out of here. That's a preventive RA. A corrective RA will be one where you're doing something different than it wants you to be doing. So where, for example, you're level and it wants you to climb, or you're descending, wants you to climb, one of those. And then there are basically strengthening and reducing RAs. So there's climb, and then there's increase climb, descent, increase descent. And reducing RAs will be where it wants you to level off. So once it's given you a climb or an increased climb, and what you're doing is already enough, it'll give you a level off, basically telling you, you've done enough already. Just keep your current altitude and you'll be good. Now we're coming up right up the tailpipe of this guy. We might actually trigger the Z threshold, or the D mod threshold. So those are for when the closure rate is too low. The closure rate is too low.
Climb. Climb.
And let's say I don't do anything. And now I lazily start the climb.
Increase climb. Increase climb.
I'm gonna fly over that guy. I'm already above him. 600 feet below. It'll basically try and get up about, I think, 800, 900 feet of separation.
Clear of conflict.
There we go. It gives you a corrective RA after a preventive. Does it still add now? No. It only adds the now part when it does a reversal, sense reversal. So if you want to know the exact set of parameters, you can get that data out of XTCast, which is the open source TCAS implementation I've written. It's in source xtcast.h, and this is the data you get for when it gives you an RA. There's a prediction, audio playback stuff, contact management, blah, 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 whatever. So this is your input data that it gives you. It gives you the advisory it wants you to basically do. The message is, oh, let's see, what is message? I forgot. TCAS message. Ah, there we go. So this is the actual, right, TCAS advisory is the advisory level, so TCAS ADV. Yeah, so it's either none, a tier, or an RA. Then the message is the actual message it wants you to say. So climb, climb, crossing, climb, increase, climb, whatever. Then it gives you blah, blah, blah. Let's go. I mean, there's all of this is documented here, right? So it gives you the type. So is this a corrective or a preventive RA? Is this a climbing or descending sense? So sense, upward, level off, downward. Then you got the crossing, whether you're going to be crossing the intruder's altitude or not. Normally, TCAS tries to maneuver such that you never cross the altitude. So when you're above the intruder, it'll try and climb you. If you're below the intruder, it'll try and descend you, unless you're already climbing or descending at such a rate. It actually does a prediction for, I'm sorry, I'm gesticulating here and you can't see that. Unless you're already, so when you're above it, so this is you, when you're above it, it tries to give you a climb. When you're below the intruder, it tries to give you a descend. Let's make it the intruder a little fist. And, however, when you're already descending at such a rate, it does a prediction. It basically expects you to do a quarter G correction. And so if your quarter G correction would leave you with less separation above than below, then it'll give you a crossing instruction. So it'll give you, for example, even if you're above, it'll give you a descent, crossing, descend. Descent, crossing, descend. That means you're going to keep on descending, or want you to descend. It wants you to keep on descending, but expect that you will be crossing the intruder's altitude. And it can give you an increased descent after that if necessary. But yeah. Minimum separation at closest point of approach, CPA. These are the V-speed bands. So bottom part of green, top part of green, lower red portion and upper red portion, if any. And it also tells you whether this is a reversal of a previously issued RA. So if previously descent was climb and now it wants you to do a descent, then it'll say reversal, and then it'll use one of the now versions of the message. So it'll say climb, climb now, or descend, descend now. There's a fair amount of combinations of possible messages that can come about, and they are all, if you want to know, they are all listed up here in the XTCast source code. So these are all the possible RAs for all their triggering conditions, input conditions, output conditions, and here they all are. These are all the scenarios that the TCAS system examines. For every second essentially. So whenever every second for every intruder, and goes through the entire list here and checks for all possible, well, if first of all, and figures out if there's an RA, it has to be issued. That's a different part of the code. And then once it determines, okay, we need to resolve this, that's when it starts looking through this list and looks for some input conditions. Is this possible as an initial RA, or is it only something that can be issued on subsequent ones? What's the sense of it? What type of it? Does it require crossing the intruder's altitude or not? And then we've got input and output conditions, so VS. So this would be your input and output in and out states of the aircraft, and then some caution or red bands where it doesn't want you to go. But basically these are sort of the start and end of the RA, where it wants to end up, where it begins and where it ends up. Anyway, so there's a lot of them. That was fun to code. Cool. So, have we had enough airplane hunting? Let's have a terrain encounter as well. Why not? If it gives you a corrective RA after a preventive RA, we'll add now. Now is only added as a subsequent message. So, yeah, as I said, it's only for sense reversal.
2500. Terrain. Pull up. Pull
Why
up.
didn't you caution me earlier?
Pull up.
The autopilot didn't even get to do its little bleep bleep. And now the ATS has taken over the throttles. It doesn't want to add power.
Terrain.
New for the CL650. No, that was already something I had written way back. It was originally written for the Flight Factory A320. It's also in the TBM, but in the TBM is not ECAS equipped. It only has a TAS, a traffic advisory. So there it functions as essentially just a TCAS mode 1 type or TCAS 1 type system. It doesn't give you resolutions, it only gives you advisories, and those advisories are modeled based on the Garmin GTS 820 TAS. Now for the Garmin, it does have a couple of tricks up its sleeve. So if you, I don't know if you've ever had a traffic resolution or a traffic advisory in the TBM, but you'll get switch you over to PPOS display.
Caution, terrain.
Yeah, there we go. Does a turn prediction.
Terrain. Pull up.
See how it shifts the prediction where I'm going to impact, because the thing it anticipates my turns. So if I turn away now, I might have been a little bit too late there. You know, it's predicting further out to the right. The autopilot can't even do the little bleep bleep for autopilot disconnect because TAWS has higher priority. Would have given you a TCAS. Right. It would have been interesting. But TAWS has higher priority regardless. So if TAWS is yelling at you, TCAS cannot speak. Nor can any DCU audio for things like you know, cautions, dings and bings and that kind of stuff. When TAWS speaks, everybody listens. Or everybody goes quiet, I guess. What would happen if you need to descend below a target for TCAS but you have terrain under you? Right, so good question. That is something that the TCAS system does consider. That TCAS considers, because it's already a system right there in the name. TCAS looks at, let me show you the source code here. TCAS has what they call sensitivity levels, SLs. And those, first of all, they determine at what trigger points TCAS will actuate. So we've got 7 sensitivity levels, SLs, and they are all based on various altitude criteria. Normally SL1 is TCAS disabled, so that basically just means whenever you select TCAS to standby, it goes into SL1. SL2 is active during the landing, so that goes from minimum criteria altitude, which is 50 feet. Below 50 feet, it doesn't enunciate anything. Basically, at 50 feet, it thinks that you're on the ground. And from 50 to 1,000 feet, it'll go into TA only, which means it'll only ever enunciate traffic, but it'll never give you any kind of resolution advisory. So there's only a TA tau, and it's a fairly narrow sector. So 0.3 nautical miles, 20 seconds, nothing more. So 0.3 nautical miles separation laterally, or 20 seconds to impact. Let's see, Z threshold, right, that's for height difference for when you're less than 850 feet below the target. And that's when it's going to yell at you. Sensitivity level 3 is above that from 1,000 to 2,350 feet radio. Now, crucially, this is radio altimeter. So this is automatically picked based on wherever terrain is. Crucially, TCAS does not do a look ahead, so it doesn't, have a terrain database. It doesn't know what terrain is going to be ahead of you if you're about to fly into a mountain. Honestly, probably traffic is less of a concern if you're about to hit some terrain. But yeah, that's how it works. And above sensitivity level 3, it goes into barometric altitude. So SL4 goes from 0 to 5,000 baro, 5,000 to 10,000 baro, 10 to 20,000, and then you've got 20 to 42,000 and 42,000 and above. That's SL7, and you'll see that all these thresholds changed. So SL3 has TA for tau, 25 seconds, tau for TAs, so that's time to contact, or time to closest point of approach, really. 25 seconds or 15 seconds. Then you've got for SL4, it's 30-20, 40-25, 45-30, 48-35, 48-35. And the distance limitations also change, and Z thresholds also change. So for resolutions and everything else. So for TAs, 1.3 miles, 1.1 miles, and the closer you are down to the ground, the tighter the thresholds become. So it's a little bit harder to set up an encounter really when you're down very, very low, because these DMOP thresholds become very tight. So I basically have to hit like a 0.3 mile window around the aircraft for the encounter really to happen. For TCAS to actually think that, oh crap, we're gonna actually hit him or something. We're outside of SL3, so we were probably sitting in SL4 here. It was given 30 and 20 seconds for the tau, and 0.35 really for the resolution advisories. And there's additional stuff in TCAS. So this is just sensitivity levels. But your question is, how does it prevent giving you a descending RA? Here's how. There are hard-coded exceptions. Downward. So we exclude downward sense RAs if we are below a certain altitude. So below 1,100 feet AGL, does the Challenger CCAS consider hitting other targets? Yes, Bottle, it does. Well, I mean, my implementation and the real thing as well, but my implementation does as well. So it does basically do a consideration through all targets. Well, all RAs to be exact. It doesn't predict TAs because if you have, it's really hard to predict, you know, arbitrarily far forward. It'll basically do a resolution through one target, and it'll basically do a sequence of them. It'll go from the closest to the next guy and tries to pick the path, basically, that'll maneuver us with maximum separation from everybody. Right. So below 1,100 feet AGL, it will never give you a descending or a downward sense RA. It'll automatically exclude those. Below 1,500 feet below 1,550 feet AGL, it'll never give you an increasing descend. So it'll exclude those. Above flight level 480, it's possible to get a climb TCAS while at the service ceiling. Yes, TCAS has no concept of a service ceiling. Okay, King. So it will expect you to maneuver however it needs you to maneuver. It has no concept of understanding your performance. And honestly, TCAS, 1,000 feet hop at almost any altitude is possible for the aircraft. Granted, even if you're going to lose speed, even if you might have to descend further below your original flight level to regain the speed, TCAS's target or TCAS's goal at the point of encounter is just to get you as far away from the aircraft as, well, minimum the Z threshold, basically. It wants to attain at least about 800 feet of separation, after which point, you know, do whatever. If you're high up at altitude, who cares? But for these jet aircraft, you know, getting 1,000 feet of climb at almost any altitude below the service ceiling, even at the service ceiling, you can still get it. Or exchanging speed for that. Anyway, so for example, above 48K, where were you? Above flight level 480, no more climb RAs. And preventive only if requested, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, anyway. So, there you go. There are some hard-coded exceptions into the TCAS algorithm to prevent giving you patently bad advice. Hope this makes sense. What else does it do if it cannot climb or descend fast enough? And there are same out. What? Cannot climb or descend fast enough or at the same altitude as the target. Well, presumably it will, well, it'll simply pick whichever course it thinks is going to attain maximum separation. It doesn't care what that maximum separation is. It's not going to throw up its hands and say, too bad, you're going to die. It doesn't work that way. The maximum it can give you is about 2,500 feet a minute. And if the target maneuvers in a way that is incompatible, it can change its mind. So if it, if the target, for example, gives you a descent, and the target also initiates a descent, on that case, it might change its mind and do a climb instead. You're gonna have to react pretty quick to get it, but the system has
2,500.
predefined targets or predefined thresholds at which it triggers. So it expects you to be maneuvering within 5 seconds of receiving the RA at a quarter G. That is its prediction path to the designed to the target vertical speed. If it gives you a subsequent RA, either a increased climb or an increased descent, it expects you to start maneuvering within 2.5 seconds at 1/3 of a G. Not TCAS, data linking is very low. Even if you can't go up, it will go down. Well, in reality, is what would happen, yes. So, one thing that real TCAS can do that I cannot is real TCAS has the ability to transmit what they call a coordination message to the intruding aircraft. If they are Mode S transponder equipped, there's a TCAS listening in on the other end for not resolution advisory. It listens for what they call the coordination message. So when your TCAS comes up with a resolution, by the way, TCAS only operates in 1 second intervals, so it checks intruders every 1 second. Basically interrogates them once a second when they are within a certain proximity. When they're very far away, it actually drops the frequency way down, about 1/10 of a second, or I'm sorry, 1/10 of a hertz. So only about every 10 seconds. But when they're proximate traffic, when they're within 6 miles or 1,200 feet over your altitude, it will increase the probing frequency to one check per second. And when the intruding aircraft sends a coordination message, which is going to basically inform your TCAS of their sense. So if they're going to get, let's say we're converging 2 aircraft with TCAS equipped, Mode S transponders, everything. If we compute a climb resolution advisory, we're going to send a coordination message to the other guy telling him I've selected a climb or an upward sensing RA. So for that aircraft's TCAS, that automatically means it's going to call the list of possible resolutions for everything that is a climb sense. So it'll only remain with level or descent sense RAs, and that's what it's going to pick from. If both of them happen to have picked already, so let's say we've picked an RA, we send a coordination message, but we've already got back a coordination message from the other guy just because of random coincidence, just how it happens in processing delay. So if you've already got a resolution advisory chosen, but they've given us a conflicting resolution advisory sense, listen to it both. Right. So if both have sent an incompatible coordination message, it goes by Mode S aircraft 24-bit address. So I think either the one who has the higher address or the one who has the lower address, I forget, but one of them is going to change their sense of the RA. So basically the guy with the, I think, either a lower or higher Mode S address is going to change their sense. They're going to change their advisory. So only one of them changes. They don't both change. So there is a conflict resolution algorithm for that part as well. Unfortunately, I can't implement that and explain because my targets are dumb. There is no brain there to talk to, so it's not like I can coordinate with anybody because there is nobody listening on the other end. These aircraft do not have a Mode S transponder, so I'm basically operating as if everybody was a Mode C target. Also, X-Plane does not have any notion in its default transponder data refs of a Mode A target or an altitude not reporting target. That is also a thing that can happen in TCAS. Lib Mode S confirmed. Yeah, sure. So TCAS, or rather Mode S and Mode C really, or well, transponders in general, they have a notion of a a non-altitude reporting target. It works differently between Mode S and Mode A, but for purposes of your pilot sensibilities, it might as well be the same thing. Practical upshot is the transponder cannot tell where the aircraft is vertically, so it basically assumes that it is at your same altitude. And in that case, it's gonna filter out and only give you a TA. For aircraft that do not have altitude reporting, it's gonna give you a traffic advisory and nothing more, because it cannot do a resolution advisory. It cannot reasonably give you either a climb or a descent. It can't make up its mind. And it could also be an aircraft that's on the ground with Mode A only enabled. So basically like a conventional old style transponder with Mode A reporting only. That will not happen for Mode S transponders generally. Mode S transponders, typically, that's not necessarily required, but on aircraft, usually on jet aircraft with sophisticated transponders, they have a weight on wheels signal that is piped into the transponder box, and if that is set, there's a special mode flag that gets set in their Mode S replies. Hey Alime, welcome. A special mode flag that gets set in their Mode S replies that indicates that they are on the ground, and therefore any TCAS aircraft or any airborne TCAS is going to ignore them. So yeah. And by the way, yeah, above and below 50 feet, your TCAS is not even going to make a single beep. If you were below 50 feet, there's also another type of exclusion system. That actually, the ground air state, we do simulate that. If your network plugin, or if you're using X-Plane default aircraft, X-Plane now includes in its new Mode S dataset, or in its new transponder dataset, or TCAS dataset really, it includes the air ground status of the aircraft. So if the aircraft is marked as being on the ground, our TCAS is going to ignore it. So you're not going to get spurious alerts for those aircraft. And also, and they're not even going to show up here on the map. TCAS automatically excludes those. Also, if you have radio altimeter alive below 2,500 feet, your TCAS is going to know, it's going to guess where the ground level is. And if it sees an intruder that is within, let me think, I think 400 feet of ground level, based on their barometric delta from you, and it basically extrapolates down to the ground how far away from your radio altimeter grounded they are. If they're less than 400 feet below ground, less than 400 feet above ground level, based on radio altimeter altitude, it will also exclude them from display. So they're not going to show up here. You're not going to have, when you're coming in to land at an airport and you got a bunch of aircraft there with Mode C reporting turned on, they're not going to, show up as a cluster of contacts and start giving you traffic advisories on landing. But that is also a part of, and it's not something I designed, by the way. This is how the real thing works. So it's just straight from the ACAS specification from ICAO, which I think is available for free. So if you want a relaxing read of about, I think it was about 100 pages, maybe 120 pages of spec, you can find it online. You want to look for the Airborne Collision Avoidance System 2. Yes, at ACAS, type ACAS ICAO specification, that you'll find it. Why am I doing manual holds here? I could just do automatic holds. So let's go to index hold, present position. Arm LNAV, sure, rock and roll. So yeah, that is all in place now. Do you have real weather? Actually, is it assuming real weather? Debug atmosphere. Yes, it's guessing we've got real weather, because down at ground level we've got 15 and real temperature down at ground level is about 21. Within 10 degrees, yeah. within 10 degrees of what we think it should be, so we're basically guessing. Possible to go direct P-pause? No. Ow. What the mission is currently. Well, we're going to be working on VDL mode too. So this is real weather. It thinks that we might be using real weather. So my little atmospheric simulator here. Because our temperature is reasonably close to what it thinks it should be based on sea level versus what X-Plane has given us. It basically thinks, okay, you're probably using real weather. Within plus or minus 10 degrees. There's some allowance there for the fact that GFS data is fairly coarse down low, and that is this is really for plugins that we do not have special handling for. Can I go direct box? No, unfortunately, no, you can't. Direct. Yeah, not that either. Actually, it won't even let me go direct to the east. You know why? Because they're too far away. I still got my British flight plan loaded up, and I'm currently at Honolulu, and so that basically is making this display go 99999 because it's too far away. It's more than 10,000 miles away, and direct twos, 999, yeah. Direct twos are not allowed to. The same thing for these guys. So direct twos are not allowed to go more than 4,000 miles on a single hop. Just because of the fact that the projection math can go a little bit wonky. So I basically called it off. I've put a cutoff there at 4,000 miles. Honestly, if you want to go direct more than 4,000 miles, you probably should have you should probably re-examine your flight plan. Does the display change when you add the flight plan? What display? This display? Distance display. Yes. Oh, this? Yeah. So this is currently going from, basically expecting me to go from my present position to like across there. Yeah, I've gone from, here's the problem. So this is still in the departure portion. It was still flying the SID. It thought I was going on the SID. Then suddenly I've put a P-pause hold at Honolulu, and then it goes back to the UK. So there's like a 6,000 mile hop here between these two legs. Direct P-pause hold. What? Direct. Oh, I mean, I put this in. It doesn't even know what that is. Being an ass. What does it do if you have a disc on? Does it account for that? Oh, you want to see what it does with the discontinuity? Not a problem. Hold, exit, hold, execute. Right now it just says caution flight plan discontinuity because I've armed an exit here. So it's going to exit on the next course. You see it stopped drawing the flight plan, or stopped drawing the hold. If I reinstate it, it's going to redraw it. But if I go like that, it stops drawing. It basically only draws the inbound leg. If I was on the outbound, it would just draw an inbound turn. People are already trying to pull threads. And I'm less than 2 minutes away from crossing into a discontinuity or sequencing into a discon. So, see what happens. Ooh, that was loud. And Volcatoes, thanks for follow. Welcome aboard. Hope it wasn't too loud, guys. Welcome, Volcatoes. Volcastos. There we go. And here's our status. Discontinuity. And yeah, it's still an LNAV. But if I go like this, I'm going to turn a little bit. Gonna reinstate, put the autopilot back in, and it's just gonna go wings level. So no, when you're in a discontinuity, it's just gonna go wings level and just sit there. Right, so now that I've sequenced out of the section there, it's recomputed the length of the flight plan to be 344 nautical miles, because it now is going from the airport through the section here. Then there's no hop over to Hawaii, and then it just sequences on through the SID. So that's why the flight plan suddenly makes sense. Now it's still saying check fuel at destination because that is calculated from our present position. We go to perf, and I probably don't have the correct fuel amount in there anyway. Even if I put in sensed fuel, you'll see that fuel at destination. Let's see. Oh, why does it say 4,000? It shouldn't. Hang on. Log page. It's very confused. Probably because I'm inside of a discount. So let's uninhibit sequencing here. That's strange. Should have said like 0 here. I can't go direct to there. Can you copy into the discount? No, you can't. First of all, there's no way for you to type it opening parentheses. And second of all, you cannot go direct to a flight plan leg. Check the fuel mess. Yeah. Yes. Strange. Whatever. Let's go and load up. Whatever. I don't have a. I've got a bunch of test routes here. Grab this guy. Here, sure. And with you, we're gonna go direct to direct UVP. Sure, why not? And Becky 9 arrival through the UPP transition. There we go. Okay, now it's sort of come back to its senses. Where does the date come from? From the GPS unit. Let's go and turn on VNAV, resume VNAV speed. Pull the flaps back up. And how far we got to go there? 144 miles. Oh, right. I was wondering why it was saying. Let me show you what the VNAV window now looks like. So go to display menu, turn on the VNAV window here. I was wondering why for the next leg it said nothing. Here, next, nothing. That's because it's a discontinuity, of course. So delete you. And now it's filled in correctly. 25 miles. I'm sorry, 25 minutes, 140 miles. Why are you sending 0 minutes to UPP? Huh. I need to check. Or no, it's time. Ah, right, I was just being an idiot. It's 25 minutes and it's 23:35, so it's going to be 00 UTC. And when the date next to the route names. That's for, right, I understand what you mean. That's from your file, from your operating system. So route menu, disk route list. So these are when you've created the files on disk. So it's not using the simulator time. It's actual real time on your OS file system. 140 miles. 140 miles. So we could go up to like, I don't know, flight level 200. And I'm also gonna go in VNAV setup. Thinks we're in descent, so I'm gonna correct him a little bit on that. And or whatever. So our top of climb is about there-ish. I'm gonna get rid of the AI aircraft before it crash my simulator. Bye, guys. See, they've reverted to sort of a default state here. That's when X-Plane stops updating the contact data. They're gonna disappear. If our TCAS detects that they have not moved in a while, just gonna get rid of them. And it's part of the arrival, so it thinks that we're supposed to stay in descent speed mode. It's going a bit fast. I'm gonna pull you down to 270, 270. So, data mode. Anyway, we might actually be able to give the VNAV window a show now. Nah, nothing. Why aren't you showing anything? Because I'm not in a climb or descent state? Not on the V path or anything? Or because there's not enough of a descent gradient? Fake chat, thanks for the follow. Welcome aboard. I have to check why this thing is not showing it. It should have. Should something. Hang on, do I have a top of descent even? I might need to recompute it. Should appear when we level off here. Going direct to something is kind of a strange case for the FMS in general. Shoot over to light level mode or standard pressure. Big reveal from Goran. Me too. You and me both. One of the funny things is you can actually manipulate the data on here through the MFD, because you can go like this into the PFD menu, and it gives you the PFD part of the menu, which would normally have to go through here. So lower menu, PFD menu, and go to config. There we go, top of descent showed up. And I want to change you over to inches. And it should have changed both sides of the avionic. Good stuff, so that's coordinated and everything working. You'll notice no terrain or no IFIS display here on the left, because unfortunately only the MFD has an Ethernet connection. So they're actually different model numbers of screens, even though they are very, very similar. This is model number AFD 5220. This is model number AFD 5220E, because it has an Ethernet card on it. They're both open at the same time. In tab, will you see the option select change by itself? Yes, you will. You always want to see that, huh? You always want to see some stuff. So I'm going to bring them close together. So go to menu, config, and here you go. Same thing for all the other settings. So magnetic heading reference, well, we can change that, sure. Like that. Flight director style. Metric altitude display. So yeah, to conserve basically bus bandwidth. They're not the data here is not being transmitted, you know, every microsecond. It's only being transmitted like once or twice a second between them. The config page. Ah, I see. Yeah, give me a sec here. I just want to change my descent speed back to 300. Notice when I type in 300, it understands that you mean the speed, not the Mach number. It will automatically pull that in. It's smart enough to know that. Descent info. Do not please give me a descent info. Why aren't you showing that? It should be there. I gotta check. Maybe I broke something. Nearest airports is on the MFD enabled. Funnily enough. Yeah. So you wanted to see config options between them. It's going to take a bit of trying because the menus don't stay forever. They only stay for, I think, like 20 or 30 seconds or something like that. So we'll first go ahead and get both of them displayed. Roll this guy over to the config page. Roll the other guy over to... Shouldn't have responded to that, or whatever. And I gotta check it. He should not be listening to the DCP. Config. Yeah, so there's a slight delay between them. Not very much of a delay, but there's a slight delay. Interesting bug. I gotta fix that. So MFD and PFD menu shouldn't be listening to DCP when in MFD mode. I'll try to find a solution by breaking the code like in so many other add-ons. Mach 300. Here we go. Yeah. So there are specific trigger conditions for when it will consider that to be a Mach number and when not. Anything above 1.0 is a Mach number. Oh, sorry, is an IIS number, and below 100 knots is actually not a valid speed. So we go into perf VNAV setup, and I go in and type in like 50. Let's say wah wah, not a valid number. 99, not a valid number, but 100 it'll take. So you can go as slow as, I guess, 100 knots. Not very advisable, but it will let you punch that in. I think 500 is the max, so 499, yeah, so 499 is the max number we'll take in there. And Mach number, I forget, like 4.40 is perhaps the lowest. Actually, no, they go all the way down to 0.1 or 0.2 or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be the minimum number it'll take there. And 0.99. What about VPAs? Haha. Right, so that's where it gets funny. Because on this side, this kind of a number, stuff. So this thing, you can actually punch in just the number and it'll auto intuit what you mean. So below 1.0, so let's say 0.99, it'll consider it a Mach number. Above 1.0, it'll consider it a descent angle. And that'll go all the way up to 6.0, and you have to put a decimal point in there. Without it, it'll just tell you off. Up to 6.0, it'll consider that a descent angle. Anything more, it'll say invalid entry. That's too steep. And anything above 100 is a speed. Up to 499 is still a speed. That's rounded, by the way. 500 speed. No, sorry, 499, and then above 500, it considers it an altitude. So 501 is now an altitude. That's don't do it. Go for a cap. So there is a fair amount of input validation that the thing does. So let's have a look at our flight plan here. I want to go like this, pulling the range a little bit. And I want it to work out. All right, you haven't seen another feature of the FMS, visual approaches. So one of the neat things about the thing is you can go into departure arrival. Let's say you don't want to be, you want to be figuring out what sort of approach to fly. Oh, this one kind of works. Let me check actually. Yeah, this one quite well. We've got that one as a backup. But let's say there's no approach that you want to specifically fly. You just want guidance to the runway. Okay, fine. Go for a visual approach. You'll notice it gives you what they call a runway extension here. And then you can punch in your own number if you want. Give me an 8-mile extension. This will give you a 3-degree descent gradient and a runway waypoint there. We can just go in here, close up the disco, and bada beam, bada boom. We'll get descent, continuous descent all the way down to the runway. In fact, it should have recomputed my top of descent point such that it is now matched to such that it's going to basically, it's going to try and conform to all the constraints, obviously, but then it'll just fly me all the way down to the runway at 3 degrees. Can you do a hold? Yes, you can. It is a waypoint. It has a defined point. It is a defined location. So yes, you can. Would you want to? Probably not. But yes, you can. Check database dates. Sure, whatever. I've got the current database in there, but the date in the simulator is not matched. So to fix that, we could go to here. Real world, sure. And after the GPS comes back to its senses, hold at the runway. It probably would let you do that. Let me check. Yep. Sure. If you want, you can hold at the runway. Thing is, even though it has a special symbol, it's a waypoint with a defined position, so it's fine to hold at from its point of view. So theoretically, you could. Somebody's popping out fireworks in the background. I don't know if you can hear it. If not, good for you. So let's see. Does this guy have... Let's keep him on VNAV display. I'm going to figure out... It should show in green here or any kind of constraints that are coming up. Have you taken this into Pilot Edge yet? I'm not sure. We may... I don't remember anymore, but we'll get him on there. Okay, so coming up on top of descent here in a moment, so I'm going to roll down the pre-selector. And I'm just going to set it down to 0. And I'm just going to have the thing fly us to the runway. I do have a noise gate on the mic here in OBS, so hopefully it should filter out, background stuff. But this European countries and their fireworks in June. Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it. There's nothing to celebrate today, as far as I can tell. Yeah. Why is that IRS they're spazzing out like this? Top of descent coming up. It's not due to a misalignment or anything. Yeah, whatever. Let's go ahead and show the synthetic vision. Synthetic vision will color terrain, I guess. I saw some error. That was probably for some of the parameters that are not in use. Yeah, it's reversionary mode data. So this is for reversionary state if the IRS were in attitude reversion mode. So it's currently in nav mode, so that will not show anything. Shooting off fireworks is illegal except for a few select public holidays. Those are, I think it is here as well for a lot of cases. But, how are you going to catch these people? It's better than the actual song. Nah, it doesn't, but yeah, thank you. Thank you for kindly giving me some comfort. Let's get some weather. Let's get some real world weather. There we go. 30.7 p-hog. What is your weather there? 3006 on the altimeter. We can go ahead and pre-roll this guy. Oh, right, you haven't seen this yet. In case you guys want to have a synchronized altimeter setting, that is also possible. So now this is asymmetrism, so come on. This is asymmetrism, so it's not really a realistic thing to have these knobs synchronized, but if you want it, it's there. So you study level water. Oh, I haven't turned on steering at all. Oops. That would have made the landing kind of interesting. So what is our predicted weight? 34,000 pounds. So performance menu, please. Approach. Runway 17. Temperature there is 27. So 27 there. Pressure altitude minus 86. Good stuff. And we're going to be landing at 34,000 pounds. Send these speeds, and there we go. These speeds deselected. And failed. Okay, what is your problem there then? Only failing a cross check. Worked from the left one. What about the right one? I'm gonna change something here just to make you lose your mind. Let's do this. These speeds deselected. 34,000 feet. Yeah, synchronize that. Failed. Okay, check why the V-speeds are not being sent. V-speed send failed. Yeah, it's gonna be lit. Use Unreal Engine, it does all the work for you. Yes, check airport OAT. Temperature composition, we're gonna disable. Do you like nice scenery? I love proper airplanes more. Yeah, 10,000 feet, 280 knots. No, sure, no problem. That's because of the shortcut and the turn there. You're gonna have to put on some speed brake. We might have to. You get the METAR through the FMS in the Challenger. Eventually, yes. That's what should have been working on right now instead of, messing about here. Yeah, so right now we're in real weather. Yeah, that should about do it. Flight temperature inversion layer. Why not? Enter code stream. Messing about is more fun. Yeah. Always wanted to ask those two dots in front of the plane. It's a bit of straight mesh. Okay, we actually do need to start slowing down here. And this ain't no Airbus, by the way. These speed brakes, this is mechanically linked to the ECU inputs on the flight spoilers. So as soon as you pull them, they go out real fast. This ain't no Airbus with its smarty pants stuff. This thing is basic as basic can be. In fact, I'm gonna take manual speed control here and start rolling back it on the speed because we're kind of barreling in. But at least you can see that 0 feet, it is predicting we'll hit that part there. No, speed brake lever does not. So this is, well, the Challenger is different from what you know. You see a couple more spoilers here. Challenger has different ground and air and flight spoilers. And so the only thing that does deploy automatically on ground contact is the ground spoilers. They don't have a lever. VNAV actually slow you down to approach speed. It will pull back on the power and it'll reduce the speed target, but it will not level off. The Pro line doesn't work like that. It won't do a level segment for a deceleration. It'll sort of just YOLO its way to hopefully success. Alright, now we're on the final segment here. Time to roll some flaps. I've still got about 14 miles to go. We do need to slow down. Yeah, so we'll roll the speed back. Well, I tried to already do that, but the vertical path was just too steep for it to be able to do that. For whatever reason. So Vecchi, and next we're on to the runway extension. And that is an 8-mile extension, so that's when we know we need to actually be starting to slow down below 180. I think I'll configure my VNAV to do 2.5-degree descents. 3 degrees should be doable if I wasn't heavy. I've got a lot of fuel on board. Winds might not have cooperated, so the 3-degree descents are just about marginal for the thing to be able to do them. So there we go, within 10 miles, so now we've got an extended runway center line here on the synthetic vision. And now we should be sequencing past the runway extension. There we go, so now we're on the final leg. It's automatically inhibited sequencing here, so went from auto to inhibit.
2500.
Radio altimeter is alive. We'll see the little dashed line extending there, means sequencing is inhibited. So let's go ahead and slow down. Pancake, playing it safe? What the hell's this? You do the back course localizer 3.5. I really wonder what the glide slope would actually do, because the chart says to ignore the glide slope. It's probably not going to be there at all. Sure, you want to do a back course. Let's go ahead and abort this. Just gonna go like this. Depart, arrive. Back course 3.5 from, not from the Kona VOR. Actually, we can go from the Kona VOR, yeah. Sure. Legs. Direct Kona. Execute. I'm gonna roll back to flaps 20. It's gonna try and make a turn back in, but probably gonna overshoot a little bit, so I'm gonna pick it up and drop it in again to get a second direct here with a better angle. What's the turn back there? Okay, so it does a procedure turn of sorts? Yeah, procedure turn, intercept. Center fix 3.5, top of descent. Okay, we can do that. So let's speed up a little bit. Not too much though. It doesn't have to be. You know, it's not a race. Does the Challenger have DME hold? Yes, of course it does. There's a number of ways you can engage it. Tune. If you go here like that, or you can just go. Let's see. You can put it like this back into unholded mode, or you can go like that. Punch in the frequency you want. Alright, I probably want to type in my own frequency at this point, but whatever. And let's go approach. LNAV, no approach. Yep, it's a little bit pissed off because I'm being naughty here. Oh, never mind that. We'll select our own courses here. So it's a back course. Let me just quickly pull up the chart. Localizer back course. Where it says ICO DME went on localizer course. Well, ICO DME is the same DME as is co-located with the localizer anyway, so it's not like it's going to make a big difference. 11970, is it? 1097. 1097. And we need to pre-select the course here. Now, it's a little trick. Yeah, somehow the GPS is sort of spazzing out. Anyway, inbound course is 354. Like that. And we can also go here and pre-select the other guys. Normally they do them on their own. Cool. And for vertical planning, actually we want to be much higher than this. Well, 3,300 at least here. So I'm going to do a V speed up. So we're currently tracking Hoxley, from Hoxley, procedure turn back in to CF35. So we can check if I did procedure turns correctly. That's a very ominous terrain. That's more than 1,000 feet above. There's the red there. And there, from back inbound, 1,700 or above. Yeah, that kind of matches. And then it's down to runway. So, procedure turn has started. Why does it not show? Because that's the display scan stops there. Because it's piggybacking on the radar system display, which is I think airing 453 for the data transmission. Check altitude select. Yeah, sure, whatever. I'm gonna do my own descents. Thank you. Actually, I'm going to disable VNAV. Because the screen is only scanned in the forward quadrant because it's piggybacking on a piece of functionality that is used by radars. There we go. Turn back inbound. It'll only draw whatever terrain sort of falls within this quadrant, upper quadrant, or forward of the aircraft, really. Oh, no terrain within 10 miles. Okay, so once we pass the center fix there, we're going to be driving down to Hoxley, 1,700 feet. We're going to be slowing down here. Okay, we pass over that intercept. And now we're back inbound Hoxley, so we can go down. Now we should be getting a, yeah, there we go. So now we have a VNAV window here. It's giving us a constraint. So all we need to do is 500 feet a minute, and it's actually even given us a little pointer here for the magenta. And since we're inbound on the localizer here, I'm just going to sync up my course over to heading. And we're going to switch over to green needles and intercept localizer. Actually, no, not localizer. Gonna intercept back course. There we go. So actually, I need to be in the opposite sense. I'm actually moving away from it. Yep. There we go. Thousand feet to go is noted. Has a back course button. Yes, it does have a back course mode. Genuine. So how fast we got to descend here? At 7,800 feet should do it. What's our minimum?
2,500.
Thank you. Rating is 460. So, I said, refs, barrow, 460. And yes, the jet whistle will alert us. After that, we can drive down at our minimum descent after passing Hawksley. Hawksley is distance 4.9. Got about a mile to go. Actually descend a little bit faster, but we're gonna be a little bit past it. Good stuff. Rotary Pot. Good name. Thanks for the follow. Okay, we're gonna be above 1,700 feet when we go past 44.9, so I'm gonna roll this down to like 500 thereabouts. Yeah, there we go. Within 4.9, so we're past Hawksley now. Actually, should have been slowing down here, not talking. I'm gonna give it 5 knots above ref speed. 1,000 to go. Thank you. Good stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and kill this. And we can go ahead and kill the flight director at this point. Is this the hot start? Yes, it is. We also want to arm my thrust reverse. There we go. Gotta be coming down a little bit faster here. We're a bit high.
Approaching minimums. 500. Minimums.
Go minimums. Place the thing on the thing, and you'll be good. Bit high, whatever.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Yeah, because it tossed the airplane up to auto throttle, hadn't gone through its self-test yet. This guy lands. Okay, yeah, I guess. That's just a repeater for the mode display here for the auto throttle. Go elf test. Yeah. Classic Challenger problem. The thing has so much idle thrust. Keeps accelerating down the runway even when you don't want it. Now let's go park over there somewhere. Looks like the fire station, so not something for us. I think we can just go straight. Some landing lights would have been good, but yeah, whatever. You can see it just keeps accelerating and accelerating. 16 knots, 17 knots. And I'm not even empty or anything. Yeah, sure, whatever. This looks like a sufficiently good place for us. It's probably the airport terminal. No, that's the airport terminal right there. So let's just think of this as being for us. Okay, get those guys off the bus. Man, where the hell's the click spot? The hell? Goran, what did you do with my click spots? Oh right, I'm an idiot. I had the throttles up. That's why I accelerated so well. Okay, actually even funnier. I wanted to make you hear something. So, turn on the LCJs. If it was added enough other thrust, I could go. Add a little thrust attenuator panels behind the engines. Yeah. Switch over to the external power, kill the APU gen. There's a something, yeah. Let's see, what's the audio levels like? They're fairly high. So anybody who's got a headset on, light warning for headset users. Let me just check one more thing. There's no wind. No problem, we'll make wind. And which way am I facing? Like this. Cool. Why do some of the buttons not have manipulators? Which some? You mean this? Not a button. That's just a lamp. But they reuse the same glass such that it looks like it's got a button. This also is not a button. It's also only a pair of split lens lamps. So this is not a button either. And the ELT is also a lamp only. It only lights up when the ELT is in use. I don't think I've actually got that plumbed up. No, I don't. Yeah, they've made that to maximize confusion, but these genuinely are not buttons. Good stuff. So all of those are off. Disarm that and that off. We're gonna have, because these guys are hot, but whatever. So kill the engines. I'm gonna actually turn down my audio here. Okay, so can we go have a look from outside? Rotary pot, only a slight look. It's still not finished on the outside, but we're gonna have a quick look here. Highly confidential, sort of. They're not. No, actually, they do have shallow. They do have travel. So, like that. You do have enough travel, I guess. Anyway, so headset audio user warning. It's gonna be loud, okay? So, final warning. Yeah, we should windmill. I've just put in just about enough wind to get a little bit of windmill out of them. CL650 pilot told me how he got these sounds. Boy, that guy's got dedication. I couldn't imagine. He's come through for us in so many ways. Sounds unhealthy from an uneducated view. It would, yeah. Pennies people throw in there, yeah. The way he made this sound is he apparently took his wife and stuck her inside of the cowling here, and then he stood on the wing and spun the engine up with his hand. Pro FSX videos, thanks for the follow. And no, he apparently stuck his entire wife with the microphone close in, and then he put in his hand and spun the airplane around. Yeah, I mean, dedicated family, that's what I'm trying to say here. I didn't want to have the APU running for this because it would have completely overpowered the sound here. Of course, you've got the other sounds. So I don't know if you can hear that. Well, not quite. It's too quiet, probably. Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear the igniters clicking? Yes, you can. It's not really that... When they're spinning, the centrifugal force essentially locks them in place and they're not going to make that sound anymore at high speed. But at low speeds, they are sort of loose in their sockets, so they are not allowed to travel back and forth or up and down. They're basically locked in that direction, more or less. Back and forth a little bit, up and down not at, or out and in not at all. But they're allowed to sort of wiggle side to side a little bit in their socket. And so as they turn through the top of their rotation, they basically sort of fall over to the other side. It's just a little bit, you know, at the top, if you grab, the blade is about yay long. The entire fan diameter is about 107 centimeters or something like that. So each blade is probably like about, you know, a foot in length, foot and 3 or 4 inches. And so it'll wiggle by a couple of millimeters at the top there. Turn on the igniters, I want to hear those clicks. Ah, you pancake. Let me get back here. There. As if you stuck your head in there, but don't do that. It's a bit hot in there, as you can probably tell. In fact, what's the 276 degrees. In the sim, no, we don't animate that. That'd be a little bit going overboard. Ooh, neat. City and the clinking. We just got delayed by 3 months. Nah, don't worry. So get rid of you. Yeah, this was the hydraulic pump is what I was turning off here to make the sound audible. This guy here. And you just heard it pressurize the system. Model blade movement. Yeah, I'm not gonna do, that's going a bit too far. But yeah, what you heard there as the number 3 hydraulic pump managed to pressurize. You could hear it initially go low pitch. Yeah. Come on. Too far after doing custom atmospheric modeling and having simulate whatever the IRS does. Yeah. Beyond the line branding. Where would you see that? You'd see that over in the electrical system, and that guy's on the essential AC bus. And it's the, where are you? No, it's over on here. ADG bus? No. Nope, not this guy. It is going to be on essential bus. No. It's going to be an AC bus 1 because this guy is not part of the when it's running hydraulic pump 3B, 2B. Where's 3A? Is that guy over on AC bus 2? That would be kind of weird, but it's possible. Yeah, there he is. So hydraulic pump 3A, this guy here is what turns on. So he's depressurized pretty well. Let me turn him on. You saw how the power draw went down as the system pressurized fully. Even funnier, you can see. And I'm gonna do it like, we gotta bring up another pop-up panel here. Might be able to hear it. Turn up your audio if you want to hear it better. So I'm gonna go to flight controls and watch the power draw. I didn't want to do that. Watch the power draw and listen to the sound as I move the flight controls. But yes, it does get loaded down with additional power load. In fact, we should be able to see it as additional load here on the generator, the external generator. So as soon as I start moving the flight controls, that happens. And of course it also, this is fairly heavily filtered, so it might take quite a while of trying to see the, there we go. There it is. Challenge, hot start. Take the challenge. Hot start 650. That's a good name, Pilsnerish. If I've got multiple pumps running, it's not going to be nearly as heavily loaded. An individual pump. I gotta stage them because I might actually kill the external power generator if I put on too many pumps at the same time. Say for instance I turn off all the pumps. You can keep that one for free. I'm gonna depressurize the systems here. I'm just moving the flight controls around to depressurize them as much as I can. Also flight spoilers. Good stuff. Now if I turn on too many loads at the same time, it might actually, we might kill the AC power input from the external generator. Not because of the fact that the generator itself would die, it won't, but it's just the stability of the frequency will decrease so much that it's going to kick off the it's going to cause the airplane to kick it off as a power source. So this guy's gonna, I'm just gonna make it large enough so I can see him and grab him more easily. So up, down, up. Just about barely. I think 375 hertz is the cutoff point for the yeah. I'll turn on a single pump. The APU battery's gonna get the shit kicked out of it. Turn on the bleeds here, it should be audible. turn both of these on. And of course the APU also changes color and the exhaust and everything. Of course it does. Where's the APU inlet? It's here. There. It's gonna get darkened up in texturing later on. And this is your pack inlet. That's the pack outlet for the left one. Here's the one for the right one. Yes, you just heard that right. Whenever you turn on the steering system, there's a couple of clicks as there are apparently some solenoids. They're fairly loud in the electronic steering unit. When you turn it on, when you turn it off. You can see weather radar. It's currently not implemented yet, Pablo. It'll be later. That was model. I mean, the actual thing in the nose. It will be. So it's not currently. I think it might actually be in the 3D portion. It's just not currently, very textured and stuff. I haven't gotten to those yet. Those innards to get them properly integrated. And confirm the ka-chunk from the nose wheel steering. Yeah. So it's the same one on the CRJ as well. Glad to hear they haven't changed anything. Anyway. Turn on terrain, turn off terrain display. Yes, then you're gonna have, when the weather radar is implemented, it's gonna be over here in weather or weather and lightning display. And I still have TCAS. Oh, flight log. Yeah, that automatically comes up whenever you're whenever you land. You can disable it if you don't want it. It's in the defaults, so it's under defaults. And if you go to, I think, page 4. Yeah, there we go. Flight log on landing. If you disable that, it's not going to pop up automatically. You went back in time. The system on a CRJ, ours was probably older and more worn out, so it seemed the ka-chunk was a bit faster and a bit harder than the CL650. Like this. Like what? Okay, oh, drop down menus directly in the top bar. I've been thinking about it. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We could. It's not a big deal either way. Moving the top level menu to a different top level item. Whatever. It is an option in the SDK they've added since, I think, 11:30 or 11:25, one of those. How far can you increase max map symbol? Does it slow down the rendering? it's already set to the max. So maximum value is 41. I'm sorry, 40. So it can go down to 0 or 40, which is already the max. Anyway, what did I want to show? Depths of the plug and drop down, just my 2 cents. What does it show with 0? Well, nothing. Simple. Turn on, got a display menu, show nearest airports. And if we set down to 0, there. With a single one, it should only show our airport where we are located, but yeah, there we go. It's overlaid with our flight plan, waypoint, flight plan, airport. If I increase it to 2, it'll show another one, then another one. You get the point. And let's think about this. And if you want to go down here, you can actually watch the APU consume fuel. More or less fuel depending on the number of packs you have enabled. So right now it's about 190 pounds an hour. Turn on both packs. 200, 210, 220. That's about that much. About 30 pounds of extra per hour, per pack. So turn it off. Gonna slowly come back down. This value, it's not because the APU slowly, you leave the fuel caps off. I know you can't, unfortunately. Theoretically you could, but kind of wouldn't know how you would do that. Guess if you're doing gravity refueling. And yeah, both packs off. You're saving a bunch of fuel. About 30 pounds per hour per pack. And this is why at a lot of airports that are environmentally conscious, they're telling you not to run the APU or run the air conditioner, or run the packs basically while you're on the ground because it eats a fair amount of fuel. Have a good one, Graham. See you later. We'll catch up. Take care. Be safe. Have fun. So yeah, if I turn on both packs, fuel consumption goes way up on the APU. Hasta la pasta. The good one. Anyway, actually, beacon can come off here. But yeah, that is how that works. That is why they frequently don't want you to be running the APU too soon on big jets. This APU is a lot smaller than you'd have on an A320. An A320 APU would probably consume 300 to 350 pounds an hour. This thing is about half of that, rough guess. Although, yeah, about 300 pounds an hour is what I would expect on an A320. If you had both packs running, or yeah, both packs running on an A320, probably more like 350. So there's that's a fair amount of fuel and emissions going into the atmosphere. Anyway, all stuff, good stuff. I'm myself gonna wrap up the stream here because I do want to get some dinner. Thanks for joining me on this here little experimental flight, messing about with planes. Thanks ProFX videos, and yeah. Oh right, another thing that I implemented. If you haven't seen here yet. So these guys are implemented now. And also, one of the neat things, you're using the airplane in split mode. If you're gonna have a second pilot flying, actually only adjusts, it adjusts your volume based on which side of the cockpit you're on. So currently I'm on the left side. I'm on the right side here. The other guy has this turned off, so it thinks that I've got my headset plugged in here. Go back over here. I've got it turned on. Actually, it should have played because we got the speaker on. Whatever. I'll have a look at why it's doing that. Cool stuff. Oh, quick question. Last question for you guys before we go. Anybody know why this sounds different to this? And don't tell me one is because it's a nav, the other one's a DME. Of course it is, but why? Any takers? Are we gonna make that a little switch it blind? Yes, Palm 57 is correct. DMEs. Funny story. DMEs actually, while they're beeping, yes, you can differentiate between nav and DME Morse, yes, but the reason is this beeps at 1250 hertz. This is 1000 hertz, and while the DME is beeping, it actually is not responding to distance requests. So while it is quiet, it will respond to distance measuring requests, but while it's beeping, it will not. Anyway, that should have been the localizer. We did dot. Dot. There we go. Can you hear the distance measuring equipment requests when you listen? No, they're way too high frequency. They're lost in the noise there. They're very, very short pulses. They're a few microseconds each. So there's not a chance you'd be able to hear those. Kind of as a point of the thing. It's supposed to be reasonably quick about it. Anyway, I'm going to stop yapping about here, and I'll see you next time. So, her dog. Everybody, can you still get a signal while it's beeping? I think so, yes. For an ADF, it will. I don't think is there an ADF anywhere here? Display menu. Get rid of this. No, not that. NDBs. Now there is an NDB here. BSF. What is your frequency? I'm not sure we'll be able to hear him. BSF. 339. So let's punch him in. Let's see what happens. He may be covered and a little bit too far. Yeah, it's probably not going to work. Bearing source. Yeah, not a signal. Cool. Yeah, let's go and get dinner. And I'll see you guys on Discord. Everybody, take care. Love you all. Have fun. And see you later. Bye-bye.